Hi all, this is Gautam. So I wanted to foray into this domain of visualization. So this is my first and honest attempt. I've never, done a visualization session this long. So please excuse me if there should be any shortcomings. And if you think this video is interesting, please give your valuable comments, which is only going to be very encouraging for me. So what I've done here is I wanted to tell a story about Olympics, and I wanted to compress 120 years of Olympics data to maybe 20-30 minutes. Only share interesting insights which I feel is very interesting to listen to. Right. So the data set that I've taken is from Kaggle. So this is the reference link. So you're welcome to explore this further and let me know if I've made any mistakes. I've reviewed it 2-3 times, but still, if I happen to make any mistakes, please pardon me and let me know if there's any mistakes here. So this is the data set that you're seeing. It has close to 15 fields that we could use apart from ID. Height to weight ratio is something that I derived from this data set. It did not come along with this data set. So let's get going with the visualization. So what do we have in the first slide? So yeah, it's a geolocation graph that you're seeing here, right? So just give me a second. I'll zoom this out. Yeah, we have everything that we need to explain this graph. So all the variants of purple that you see here, right? So it's just countries that has hosted only Summer Olympics. All the variants of green and red that you are seeing here, it has only hosted Winter Olympics. So if you can see Canada, right, it did not host any Summer Olympics. And if you zoom this, there's Italy, there's Bosnia, and there's Switzerland. I guess the geographic placement of these countries is suitable for hosting, Winter Olympics. That includes Russia as well. I guess most of the part of Russia, I guess it's cold. And if you see here, even Australia, being a continent by itself, has only hosted Summer Olympics. One interesting factor here is no country in African continent has ever hosted an Olympic game, right? That's a little weird. And also, right, the only country in South America to host Olympics is Brazil. And in Asia, we have China and Russia hosting Olympics, and Japan too, if you can see here. So this is about the different venues, right, where Olympics happen, and this is the geographical distribution of it. And let's go to some animations. So yeah, before I start this, I'll give you a brief about this graph. So this is the total medals, right, won by a country on a particular year, right? If we take 1896, this is the breakdown of countries that won medals. This is the total medal, that is gold, silver, and bronze put together for that year. And if you can see, Greece stands tall among all other countries, and you can see that most of it, it's European countries, right, that have participated in the Olympics, except for United States and Australia. And I guess apart from this, most of it is just European countries that have dominated. So yeah, you can see that United States, they've started dominating, and Canada as well. They've started dominating the medal count. So again, you can see that a lot of European countries has overshadowed US and countries from other continents. The one phenomenon that is responsible for this is it could be because most of the countries in Europe, they support Winter Olympics, right? Which could add to the cumulative value of the medal count. Let's see what other interesting phenomenon that we can observe, right? So again, United States have taken lead, and you can see slowly other Asian countries joining in, and you can see Japan here in top 15. There's Argentina from South America. Yes, you can see that there's Czechoslovakia from Asia as well, apart from Japan. So let's see what happens in 1948. Now we can see, Soviet Union slowly taking over the graph. Yep, that's a sudden shoot up. Now you can see not just European countries, we have Czech, we have Japan, and we have Soviet Union, right? From other continents, and Australia as well. And this interesting thing here, we can notice West Germany and East Germany competing against each other, and they have their own share of medals. Again, Soviet Union. So you can see East Germany, West Germany having a very tough competition against each other. Okay, so there's a new addition. What is this unified team? So can someone guess? I guess. Any guesses? Okay, so unified team, actually it's a proxy for Soviet Union, right? Back then, Soviet Union used to participate in Olympics with this name. And that's the reason you see this as a separate country, but it is actually USSR. So again, if you go back to 1994, this is when actually there was a segmentation between Summer Olympics and Winter Olympics. Summer Olympics and Winter Olympics used to happen on the same year, but after 1994, what happened is they decided, International Olympic Committee decided that if Summer Olympic happens in 1 year, the Winter Olympics would happen in the subsequent year. So that's the reason you see a sudden change, right, in the graph, holistically speaking. So after 2000, again, it's United States taking the lead. And another interesting phenomenon here is you can see East Germany and West Germany total together, right, as Germany. They are represented as one country. Again, there's not a big change except for United States and Canada. Yep. So here's a very big change. You can see that the first three countries, right, and in this graph, right, they belong to three different continents: United States, Russia, and Great Britain. So that's about this graph, and let's go to the next graph. And yeah, so before clicking the play icon, so I'll explain about this graph. This is about cumulative gold over the years, right? For example, if you take 1896, Germany has won the maximum number of gold, right? It is bound to change, and how it would change is what we'll wait to observe. I'm starting the graph. Again, if you take 1896, we can see a lot of countries that we cannot recognize with modern names, right? For example, Club Manchester, right? Vesper Boat Club. So we could say that on those days, countries were not very organized as we see today. And that's the reason, because you can see that these names are from leagues and they are not represented as countries. And from 1900, you can say that United States, right? They've started dominating the table. Again, a great football club, Manchester Wanderers, Upton Park FC, no valid country names as of now. So you can see that there's still no Asian country except for Australasia. Now, if you guys think that this is a country that's from Asia and Australia, please do not be mistaken. The reason being Australia and Dominion of New Zealand used to participate together in the name called Australasia during those days. And that's the reason you're seeing Australasia name here, but still we don't have a country's entry here from Asia. So let's see which is the first country to enter the table, right, from Asia. Okay, the first country to enter this list, right, for cumulative gold from Asia is India, which is also surprising for me. But yes, that's the very first country which had its entry. And this is due to a lot of games, team games, especially hockey. So you don't see a lot of change. We can only see a lot of changes within this graph. Nothing new here. So you can see this entry of Soviet Union, another Asian country. And you can see that it's very accelerated in its growth. Yep, you can see that it's growing tremendously. Another country, right, from Asia is Japan, having its entry in 1964. And you can see it is towering other countries from 1968. So 76 is where we would have emergence of East Germany. And in 1980, you can see West Germany joining. And it's going to be a very tough competition between East Germany and West Germany. So 1994, we would have Australia joining the list. So we can see that, Australia has joined the list. And you can also see that Germany, right? Germany has united into one country, East Germany and West Germany, right? This count of East Germany would stop. Now you can see Russia, right? Entry of Russia, but this is nothing but Soviet Union, right? And you can see the count of Soviet Union stopping, and you can see the count of Russia increasing. Please add your tally to Russia here. And I did not change this because I'm using the data assets that I got from Kaggle. Okay, so this is about cumulative distribution of gold over the years per country. And let's see, I mean, even this graph is a very interesting one because I wanted to, get the relationship between physical attributes and the number of medals, right, won by country. So in x-axis, you see the mean weight, and in y-axis, in x-axis, you see the mean height, and in y-axis, you see the mean weight. And the size of the dot right here is the number of medals won by a country, for that year. Bigger the dot, greater is the number of medals won by the country on that year compared to other countries. So the size of the dot basically determines the number of medals won by that country, represented by dot with some color. So if you take this, it's represented by Italy. You take this, it's represented by Japan. Now let's see how the physical attributes change with respect to time, and do we have any relationship? Can we establish some temporal causality with respect to physical attributes and the number of medals won by that country on that year? And I'll start with 1896. So if you take 1896, this is the distribution of different countries. You see Germany here, but it's very less number of games, right? So I personally feel that we shouldn't be taking this into account. Now let's see from 1900, right? So in 1900, this is the status of all the countries with respect to their physical attributes, and France having a mean height of 169.56 centimeters and mean weight of 66, right? But it has won the maximum number of medals on that year. You can see 679, right? That's the count of medal. And Hungary being the outlier here, right? And the mean height is 187 and mean weight is 83, probably a little heavier than other countries. And the count of medal is also quite less. But again, we have very less number of games played initially in Olympics, and we cannot determine anything solid here. But let's see how time progresses. Hungary again is an outlier. Now, in 1908, we could see some relationship with respect to mean height versus mean weight versus the amount of medals, right? You could see that the highest number of medals was won by Great Britain, and they're comparatively, lighter in weight, and they're comparatively low in terms of mean height as well. You could see that there is some line that we could fit in, right, in 1908. So it's all close together. And in 1920, there is a sudden outlier here. Let's see what it is. You can see Japan has entered the league, and these are top countries in terms of number of medals that they've won throughout Olympics till 2016, starting 1896. So you could see Japan here, right? But the number of medals that they've won is comparatively lower than the other nations because they started much earlier than Japan. But if you see the mean height and mean weight, right, they are on the shallow end. You can see still Japan and Hungary, right? They're still outliers here. Japan is not moving. Hungary has moved. So Japan is nowhere to be seen here. Yeah, again, emergence of Japan. Wow. This is amazing. So you can see that the mean height of Japan is less than 60, but you can see that they've managed to win a lot of medals. So this proves how efficient they are, right? And you can see very less movement with respect to US, who's a consistent performer in Olympics, right? They don't show a lot of movements. So, after 1964, you can see most of the countries, right? They don't see a lot of movements at all. Not a big outlier except for Japan. You see, there's no big movements here. Okay, so the sudden shrinkage, right? The reason being, like I said, Winter Olympics and Summer Olympics were segmented to happen at different timelines, and that's the reason you see sudden shrinkage in the year 1994. Before 1994, it used to happen on the same year, and that's the reason you would see big dots, because the same country would win a lot of medals. So in 1996, we could see big overlap of physical attributes compared to earlier years, right? You could see a lot of overlaps. Again, Japan being the outlier. So it's only oscillating, right? After 2000, not very big changes, right? You see the oscillation. Again, the only difference that is made for a country, we can call it's for Japan. So this is with respect to the physical attributes, right? Starting with 1896. Now you can see how close they are, lately. And when we started here, they were like different planets, right? They were light years away, but lately people have learned, and we could see that there's some pattern, there's a big overlap between countries when it comes to their physical standards. And once again, if you see Japan, right, I guess that's the only country representing Asia here, and Australia is another country by itself, right, and a continent. So apart from that, it's been only North America and Europe. Maybe that's the reason for this outlier, because we are not comparing people with similar geography. Okay, so this is one of my favorite slides. The reason being, it's going to talk about how women were empowered, right, in terms of sports. In 1896, we had, so basically this talks about the proportion of men and women, and with respect to the medals that they won, right? So you could see that there's no women participation in 1896, absolutely 0%, right? And this is the proportion of male who won bronze. This is the proportion of male who won gold, and this is the proportion of male who won silver. And let's see how proportion progresses over time. You can see in 1900, about 1% of the whole population who participated in the Olympics comprised women. Okay, in 1912, we have close to 3% increase in women. That's a threefold increase since 1900, but still it is not very balanced to look at. I guess this is the biggest jump, right? From 3%. So we've got close to 12%. Yep, 12%. Yeah, in 1948, right, proportion, it was close to, again, there's a small setback in proportion, again, if you can see, right, it came back to 10%. Now it has crossed 15. You can see that in 1976, it is close to 28%. And in 1980, yeah, it's nearly 30%, right? It's like threefold bigger than 1912. So, but we still don't have a balance here. Though we see tremendous increase in participation of women, we still don't see a balance here. 33%, 30%, and this is nearly 40%, 42%, 42, 43, 42, 43, 42. Yeah, I guess this is the biggest jump. You can see that we have 46%, right, out of the whole population of participants participate in Olympics. 46% of them are women, which means that women are competing almost in all the sports where men would compete, which is a really good thing to see. Again, there's a little dip. You can see that it's 46% again in 2016. So this is with respect to the different levels or different events a woman would participate, and what is their contribution towards the proportion. Okay, so this is not a very interesting graph, if I would. So it basically tells what is the proportion of gold, silver, and bronze medal won in Summer Olympics versus Winter Olympics. So basically, what it says is Winter Olympics, right? The number of events in Winter Olympics is relatively low than Summer Olympics, and hence you don't see a lot of medals won in the proportion of Summer Olympics. When you compare it with the number of medals that are won in Summer Olympics, it's relatively low. And you could see that there's a clear segmentation here. The reason being, before 1992, right, Winter and Summer Olympics used to happen on the same year, just like I pointed earlier, and then it used to happen in different years. And then that's the reason you don't see overlaps between Summer and Winter Olympics. And Winter Olympics started in 1920, or at least that is when we have data for Winter Olympics. And this is the point where it gets actually segmented. And you can see that there's a clear pattern here. So that's the balance between Summer and Winter Olympics here. So next, go to the last slide, which talks about interesting facts about Olympics. Now, this interesting fact is not something that I derived from the internet. From whatever I was able to derive from the data set that I have, is what I am going to present as interesting facts. In the internet, you can find even more interesting facts, but I wanted to do it from this data. So I'll start with cricket, which is the only sport that I know a lot about. Right, it was played only once in 1900, and the venue of it is Paris. I don't think so we play cricket in Paris anymore. And it happened in 1900 in Paris, and The team which won the gold medal was Devon and Somerset Wanderers. Again, it's not a proper, name of a proper nation. And the silver medal was won by Francis Day Sports Athletics, right? So I'm a little surprised because cricket is the second most followed sports after football, right? And it has the maximum viewership after football. And I'm really surprised it was played only once in Olympics. And coming to this sport, Basque Relato, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but this is again a very interesting sport, and it was played only once, again in Paris. And the gold medal was won by Spain for this, sports. And this particular information was very surprising for me because back then, right, Olympics used to award people with medals for art forms as well. And the art forms would include architecture, drawing, sketching, music. And these are some of the art forms Olympics recognized back then. And lastly, tug of war. This is a very interesting game to watch. And this would happen in very short span of time, and you would get the results immediately. But, tug of war was discontinued after 1920 due to the fact that IOC felt excessive number of games were played in Olympics, and it was too much for them to manage in terms of number of games played in Olympics. So these are the interesting trivias that I felt, which is deemed presentable to the audience. So if you guys have any more interesting facts about Olympics, please add that. And I hope you like the visualization that I showed here. And like I said, if you think this is interesting, please do comment. And if you think this is boring, please also comment about it so that I could come up with even more interesting thoughts when I do my visualization next time. Thanks a lot for viewing. Goodbye.